And so, my dear ones, welcome into the sanctuary on this 8th day of this new year, and welcome into the new year. And welcome into the newness that you are open and receptive to as you move ahead into what we call a new year. And of course, it's all a human construct, and the time cycle is in expression and experience on this plane, so that you and I can be helped and assisted by it if we respond to it. And so, although it seems like one thing is coming to an end and another thing is opening up and there's a new beginning, it really is one continuum. It really is you and I living our eternal lives and living them now, as we always do. We're always in our eternal life and we're always living it now. And so, my dears, what is it going to be for you as you move ahead? What is it going to be as far as your expectation for your life in this thing called a new year? Well, I'm always very jazzed at the beginning of the new year because it is a month that most of our centers dedicate to returning to the basic fundamentals of science of mind and spirit. Science of mind and spirit. And we get the opportunity to remember more fully and deeply what we already know and what we already have said yes to, but sometimes just shelve like every other thing that we shelve that's of good, and we just leave it there and admire it on the shelf kind of thing, not so much using it. And so today we have the opportunity of being one with the invitation to know more fully and deeply this thing called life, this thing called God, this thing called infinite intelligence, this thing called whatever it is that you want to call it, because it's called by very many names. And no matter how much we try to label it, we never succeed in labeling it fully and wholly. How can we? We're trying to define an infinite thing with a finite mind, and that's not possible. But we really enjoy having a go at it, that's for sure. But it doesn't matter what anybody else labels it. What you label it is important. That's what's important, this thing called life, this thing called God. Now, of course, the name God has a very bad press in some quarters of our lives and so on and so forth, and this thing called God gets blamed a lot for all kinds of things, and when you really wake up and think about it, it's kind of a silly thing that we do. But then on the other hand, of course, why not blame God? I mean, after all, if you want to blame anyone, do blame God, because God can take it. No one else can, but God can. And as somebody said to me, besides, he's up all night anyway, isn't he? So go ahead and blame God all you want. It's not affecting God, and God doesn't mind. In fact, God doesn't even hear it, but there you have it. If it makes you feel good, that's all right. But don't blame anyone else. Don't blame anyone else. That's the beauty of God. God doesn't mind all that nonsense. Doesn't give any heed to all of that nonsense. And so this is a year for you and for me to truly stop it. Stop it. Taking everything personally. And don't tell me you don't take it personally. You do. We all do. Don't take anything personally, even if it is personal. Because as one person said, and I don't know where I heard it or read it, says, you know, if you're always going to be taking things personally in your life, you are going to live your entire life pissed off. That's the way you're going to live your entire life if you always take things personally. Well, who wants to be living with that? I don't want to live it in myself, and I don't want to live alongside of anybody else who's all the time peed off. Really. And so we need to knock that off. That's the first thing the science teaches. There's nothing to blame. So what is the science of mind and the science of spirit? Well, Ernest Holmes says it is the study of life. And it is the understanding of the governance of the law that directs every aspect of our life through consciousness, through what we think. In other words, our lives are a projection of consciousness. The power and the sovereignty of that. Everything I think affects my life and all life. And so thought rules the world, but I rule my thought. But how do I rule my thought? Am I ruling my thought wisely and well? I don't think so when I look at some of the things that happen in my life. I don't think I'm always wise in the way I am handling my thought processes, in the way I'm affecting my consciousness. And there's no such thing as just my consciousness, because what affects my consciousness affects all consciousness, raise conscious mind. That's the way it all works. So if I'm belittling myself, I'm belittling all of life. If I'm raising myself up, I'm raising up all of life. There is no privacy. There's no private thoughts or private anything. It's all part of the one whole thing, this thing called life. And so, as I say, you can name it whatever. And there are some common universal names that all cultures give to it, regardless of whether it's first cause, that which begins everything, out of which everything begins, creator, that which is responsible for everything there is in creation, that which is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, except there is no beginning and there is no end. It's all one thing, and it always was and it always will be. It's eternal. Whether you want to call that, omniessence, and I like omniessence. And what is omniessence? It is omnipotence, all power. It is omniscience, all knowledge. It is omnipresence, everywhere present. That, for me, satisfies me when it comes to the definition of life. It's omniscient. It's all-powerful, all-knowing, and everywhere present, at all times, in all places. And where it is present in its entirety. Not a little itsy-bitsy here and a great lump there, but it's present in its entirety everywhere. There is truly no spot where God life is not. No one gets left out. And so that you can name it whatever. There are bazillions of names. Some religions say we have 100 names for God. There's so much more than that, names for God, this thing called life. And if God is not a word that bodes well with you, think up of your own name for this thing called life, this thing called the beloved presence, this thing called the divine energy, divine substance, that wonderful beauty and grace, and that flows through everything and certainly lives, moves, and has its being in through you. Pick your own name. One of my favorite names for God is Yummy. And so whatever it's going to be for you, it's going to be for you, but it's affecting you, whatever that is. Whatever that is. So how ought we supposedly approach the science of mind? Ernest Holmes asks that question in his handbook, and he says, well, we ought to approach science of mind and spirit with awe and wonder. And then he says, with sanity. With sanity. And a willingness to trust in its creative process, with an open mind and with an open heart, believing that there is indeed a power for good in the universe, greater than you are, greater than I am, and we get to use it all the time, and it uses us. It's a two-way thing. We use the power, and the power uses us. It flows through us all the time. And what are we going to do with the knowledge once we get it? And what can science of mind do for us and do through us? We have learned in our own lives, some of us more than others, and people all over the world have been learning this for a long time now, that the application, the practice of science of mind and spirit can take us up out of poverty and move us into prosperity, can bring us up out of sickness and move us into regained health, can take us up out of sorrow and sadness and terribleness and all of that, and move us into joy and peace and serenity, can take a bad situation and turn that into a good experience. It can change any negative and turn it into an affirmative, a positive affirming experience. If we do what? If we apply what we know and take the spiritual tools that are ours and use them. Nothing happens without action. Nothing happens. Action is the operative word. In the beginning, God moved upon the waters of life, and creation was the result. When I set my intention, when I'm clear about my intention, when I decide this is going to be so, that's nothing until I move, put the action upon it, move upon it. Why? So that I can have the experience of it. I want the experience of it. I don't want the knowledge of it. It's useless. Knowledge is not all power. Knowledge applied is power. So I want the experience of the good that I desire, and to have that experience, I must act upon that intention. And I can't sit back and wait for anybody else to do it for me. They cannot. So I must act upon it. So this needs to be an action-packed year for all of us, as far as our directed, deliberate, and set intentions are concerned. Because as we know, the little flower, as she was known, Teresa of Lisieux, would say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, not acted upon. They're cheap, and they're many. And look at all the good ideas you have had. Look at all the inspiring moments you have had. Look at all the intentions you set and never did a darn thing about moving upon them. Well, let not this year pass us by as another one of those years. Let us be action-packed, action-oriented in this year. Let us know what we know without the shadow of a doubt in it, and let us move our thoughts accordingly, our feelings accordingly, and our actions accordingly. And lo, if wonders and awe will not be the result of that in your life and in mine. The Science of Mind is one very powerful set of principles that are life-enhancing, life-affirming, life-advancing, and enriching. Only when you understand it's the science of mind and spirit. And spirit. A wholehearted thing. Now, Ernest Holmes says, those of you who want to call science of mind a religion, go ahead, all right, but be sure that when you call it a religion, it will be a religion without any superstition in it, any opinion in it, any fixed doctrine or dogma in it, any fear in it. There ought to be no fixed doctrine and dogmas, no fear, no opinion, and no superstition in what we know of life and believe about it, what we know of God and believe about God. It has nothing to do with those things. And if any of those things have anything to do with it, then it is false. It is false. It is not true. And so you and I have to be really clear on this. When I'm here presenting the principles of science of mind, these are not my opinions. These are principles that have been tried, true, and tested with the same results over and over and over again. Now, when it is my opinion, I'll tell you it's my opinion. I would say, in my opinion. But when we speak from universal principles, there can be no false, erroneous thinking around that. None whatsoever. So this is an opportunity for you and for me to take up that book, that beginner's book again. And it doesn't have to be the handbook per se, the book of Science of Mind. It can be a book about the Science of Mind handbook. and chew and digest the first 4 chapters. And if we just had the first 4 chapters of the book under our belt, we would have more than enough to sail us sweetly through life, rowing our boat merrily, merrily, merrily down the stream. Absolutely. So this thing called life is so vast and indescribable that we really don't have much of a clue of it at all. But there's a sense in us, there's an impulse in us that knows it is an amazing, wondrous, awesome thing. And that somehow or another, for whatever miracle, I'm part of it. And that wonder, that awe, that greatness, that sovereignty, that omniscience fills me, is available to me, yes, me, with all my faults and all my failings, all my mistakes, all of my getting it wrong so many times. Nevertheless, it fills me, it saturates me. It's available to me always and ever, and it never changes. That never changes. That is always available to me, because there's no such thing as a royal screw-up in divinity. There really isn't. There's no such thing. Sooner or later, you and I move ourselves into that beauty and grace that we are. We move ourselves into that unified beingness that we are in truth. We move ourselves into that essential essence that we already are. Well, it doesn't matter whether we go hissing or kicking or screaming into it, or whether we go merrily down the stream into it. It doesn't matter what way we go into it, but into it we will return in awareness, because we never left it. We have never left our original state of being. There's a pristine state of being within you and within me that has been untouched, unblemished by anything that we may have experienced in our lives. And that's the truth that's encased within us when it is recognized, identified with, and realized, that sets us free. And if one of us can do it, all of us can do it, and many of us have done it. Many of us are doing it now. So why leave yourself out, I say? Why not know that you're part of the ones who are ready for this? Part of the ones who have that open receptivity and that willingness to embrace the moreness that you are, and stop identifying with all the limitations you think you have. As you think it, so it is. Science of mind and spirit is based on 2 universal principles found in Scripture. As a man, as a woman think in his, her heart, so he, she is. It is done unto you as you believe. Only believe, all things are possible, only believe. It is done unto you as you believe. You believe it, you know it, you state it, you feel it, you entertain it, it's yours. It's yours. What you keep thinking about, what you keep feeling about, it's yours. You will express it, you will experience it, and more than that, you will attract more of that into your life. Because the universe always responds to you by corresponding to what you're thinking and what you're feeling. Oh, she wants more trouble. Let's give her more trouble in spades. Oh, she wants more fear and anxiety. Sure, you can have that. Oh, she wants peace. She wants love. She wants serenity. She wants poise. Of course you may have it. And again, you can have it in spades. What is so difficult about understanding that? And look at us, all very intelligent people in this room. We are so intelligent, it's not funny. We are knocked down intelligent people here. And yet, what is it we don't get about what you're thinking happens in your life? What you're identifying with happens in your life. What you think about him or her comes back right at you, has nothing to do with them. You think they're a mean son of a daughter of a what? Well, you'll get the experience of that, not them. Have you noticed that? Gosh, we're funny. I keep telling my friends, when all those intelligent beings in the universes that are in other worlds and planets and so on want a little light relief, they say, let's tune into planet Earth and look at Looney Tunes. And they laugh themselves silly when they see what's going on here. We are their entertainment. Let's start laughing with ourselves and at ourselves. And let's start taking seriously the beauty and the grace that we are, the sovereignty that we are, the empowerment that we are, the intelligence that we are, the amazing, awesome, infinite possibility that we are. Wouldn't that be neat? And you know what? If just the sum of us in this room would do that, we could change the whole world and beyond. Just us. Being the best of ourselves, embracing the truth of ourselves, celebrating the essence of ourselves, shining the light that we are out there gloriously. We would only have to show up and everything around us would change for the better. Wouldn't have to say a word, do anything at all. We would just have to be our essential selves. And they would be saying of you, my gosh, didn't the power go out from her? Didn't the power go out from him? As they said of Jesus. Have we not seen wonderful miracles this day in Jerusalem, as the two disciples said on the road to Emmaus when they encountered Jesus? I mean, it's yours to do. He said it himself. Oh yeah, I've done great things. But you know what? You can do those things too. You can even do greater things. If you get success in achieving a higher conscious awareness than I have had, you could even be greater than I am. What is it we don't want to believe about those words? Why is it so easy for you and for me to identify ourselves with the negative? Why is it so easy to say, yes, I'm not a, yes, I am a, yes, I don't have a, and so on. And so hard to say, I am the sovereign emanation of Emmanuel, God with us. I am the chosen form of spirit, so that spirit is here to know itself, have a great good time by means of me in expression. Why is that so impossible for us to think about, far less even speak it? And yet that's what is the truth. Who am I? I am the chosen form of spirit, so that spirit can show up in form and express itself by means of me. Wow, there's a concept. So I'm not my little petty thinking. I'm not my miserable feelings. I'm not all my mistakes. I'm not the inertia I experience. I'm not the misery I allow to flow through me at times. I'm none of that. That's all a sham. That's a nonsense. So I'll tell you how we learn the most wondrously well. I can only share my experience. I was sharing this morning, I knew a lot of stuff about a lot of things when I encountered Science of Mind once upon a time with Dr. Bitzer in Hollywood. I had a lot of knowledge under my belt. I was fascinated from the time I was knee-high to a grasshopper about this thing called God, scared silly, but at the same time fascinated about this thing called God. And so I studied psychology, spiritual psychology, philosophy, all you could think of as far as spirituality is concerned, and religion and other religions and all the rest of it. And yet, it was when I came to Science of Mind that I really, really got a sense of what God, infinite being, life was truly all about. And the way I got that was, as soon as possible, I took a class, then I took another one and another one and another one, and I never, ever stopped taking classes to this day. I never stopped taking the classes. It was only with the classes that the seeds could really root in firm soil, and eventually I could start to see and taste the fruits of those seeds as they came to harvest. So I would say to any one of you, don't think you're going to sit there and it's going to come to you through osmosis. It's not. We have to do the work that goes with it. So if you've been thinking about a class, sign up for it and take it. If it's been on your mind to take a class, do it. Because I'm telling you, in that classroom situation, wonders happen. Ask any one of us who are taking the classes. And there are classes going on a Saturday morning and on a Tuesday night. And both of those classes are centered around the basic fundamental principles of science of mind. So that would be one of the greatest gifts you could give yourself or anybody else at the beginning of this year. They are shining lights on me, and every time they do, it says, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Your time is up, you're finished, you know. So my dear ones, know who you are, know what you are, know what you want. Know there's a way of you getting what you want, and then be prepared to work on it, move on it, act on it, so that you can have what you want and the good in life as Spirit wants you to have. Because you're already there, you just have to peel away the layers and see all that glory and grace that is yours already now. Let's celebrate that, and in doing that, improve exponentially our own lives and all of life, because we can, and so it is.